Hello, fellow Unreal Engine enthusiast. In this video, you're going to learn how to add radial force to a projectile so you can destroy destructible objects or destructible meshes. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So normally, if you ever start with the first-person template, you may shoot these rigid bodies and that have simulation on them, which is pretty cool. But at some point, you're probably going to discover destructible meshes, which are totally cool. So, for instance, if you right-click on this mesh and you go find in browser, you'll find the mesh. If you right-click on so like if you take a look at this, see how it says static mesh. Any static mesh you have, you can right-click on it and do create destructible mesh, which is really cool. They actually have Apex. NVIDIA Apex has other tools that make it even more advanced because you can have two depths right here. So, so if you click fracture mesh, just go ahead and click that. You see how it explodes, and this is pretty simplistic. You can get more into it, like adding impact damage, like when you run into it, then it'll blow apart. Or fall apart, and then you can also, the cell count is actually how many places. You see how many places it breaks, so it's going to break into 25 chunks basically. So it can get really in depth on this, but it's really cool how it works. You can also add, you can go in there and add sound. You can add effects, like, so here's depth 1. Particle system, sound. You can add when it breaks apart the inside. See how this, you can add a different texture for that. So, but we're not going to really get too into that. This is just showing about the fractal, making a fractal mesh. So now if we come into our scene, we add our mesh, what do you think is going to happen? So you can shoot these and they fall over. You think you could shoot this one, right? And it's going to no, but it won't. See, isn't that crazy? You'd think it would just knock it apart. So like if you run into it, it breaks apart, because on there we had in our options for when we created the destructible mesh on collision. So what you need to do is, it's really simple. Just go to your blueprints and to your first person projectile, and on here break this link right here. So this impulse, this is actually when you shoot that projectile, this impulse actually hits that those rigid boxes that are simulated and pushes them around, or impulses them. So what you're going to have to do is add a radial force in order to break apart that destructible mesh. So just click on up here, click add component, and if you scroll down, you'll see down here this physics, and we want radial force. Really easy. Just add it in there. And if you click on it on the right, you're going to have options that you can put in here. What I normally do on here is on the impulse, I put 5,000. And of course, all these are fun to play with to get it fine-tuned how you like it. But just something to get you started, 1,000 and 1,000 on the force and the destructible. So that's the radial force. We haven't added it into the scene yet, so we'll drag it on over here. And there it is. Sits there by itself. Now we've got to pull off this and then type in fire. It's because we're going to fire impulse, and that target of that impulse is going to be the radial force. And the radial force, we already set our values over here. So then we just put it in line. So it's going to, on hit, it's going to fire some radial force with the values that we'd set, and then once it knocks off that radial force, it's going to go over here and then add the impulse just as normal. So we're going to go ahead and compile that. Click saves. Hit play. Now, as you can see, it hits that, and then breaks it apart. Adds the radial force to it. So down and dirty, really simple way to do it. If you have any questions or anything, leave them below, and have fun with Unreal Engine. Amazing engine.